Test, test.
This is the print they got, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is their score for this one. For this section. Melissa? Yeah. That's what, that's how they base insurance rates. That's a specific.
This is why our insurance rate is outrageous.
There's some of the reasons, yeah.
Welcome, everyone. We're returning from closed session. Welcome to the,
There'd be nothing to report from closed session.
thank you, Mr. Jones. It is Thursday, March 21st, 2024. We will kick off the regular meeting of the Clear Lake City Council. Madam Clerk, can you conduct roll call?
Councilmember Slotin,
Here.
Councilmember Purdock,
Here.
Councilmember Kramer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Overton,
Here.
and Mayor Claffey.
Here. Okay, Vice Mayor, would you lead us in the pledge?
Aye.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing, if we could just have a brief moment of silence for the loved ones in your life that may have passed or hoping can recover from illness. Thank you. All right, moving on to item E, adoption of the agenda. Mr. Floor, are there any changes?
No modifications, Mr. Mayor.
Any, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, or Purdock, a second from Councilmember Kramer. All those in favor, please vote in
Aye.
your portal.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you. Moving on to presentations. Presentation of March's Adoptable Dogs, North Bay.
Hi, meet Henry. He's about 2 years old Henry's as sweet as pie. He loves to give big hugs, and he's great on a leash, enjoys long walks and playing with other dogs. Henry's been at the shelter for 403 days. This boy is ready to find his forever family. Henry's neutered, microchip, and up to date on vaccines. Come down to our shelter to meet your best friend.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So our intake since January 1, 2024 has been 145 dogs have come into the shelter. 116 have left the shelter, 4 sent to rescue, 104 returned to owners, 7 adopted, 1 was euthanized with a 98.65% release rate. Currently, our shelter population is 59 dogs. That includes 7 puppies. That's with one of the mothers. And then to let you know, like they were saying about the microchipping, so far this year, they've microchipped 60 dogs, and they've done 47 free vaccinations, and they're continuing with their vaccination and microchipping process.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to presentation from the Lake County Public Education and Government Channel's annual report. Do we have Supervisor Sabate here? Madam Clerk, is anyone raising their hand online?
Supervisor Sabatier is on the Zoom.
He says he's not quite ready. We might need to give him a minute. Or
Okay.
you could take public comment, I guess.
All right, we will move forward to public comment. This is a time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter that is not on the agenda and that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow for the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under the public comment. When you come to the dais, please give your name and city of residence. If you're on Zoom, there's an option for you to enter comments in the app. Is there anyone here in the chamber that would like to make comment? Please come forward. You could state your name and city of residence.
Hi, I'm a resident of Clear Lake for 33 years. And my doctors tell me that I need to walk, but I can't walk, not in these streets. I have a problem with the potholes and the stray dogs. They have attacked me and a friend. And my walking partner is an 80-year-old woman who the dog jumped on her and she twirled and twirled until she got him off her back. And I live on Liddell, and Austin is paved, 40th is paved, but I cannot walk past my block. I cannot walk in my block to get to some of the smoother roads in order to walk. And it's a problem. And on Austin and Liddell, sometimes there are 4 dogs that are chasing cars. They're loose, and we don't know who the owners are. So and it's very dangerous.
Okay. Well, thank you. Lieutenant Peterson, if you'd like to chat with him, give a little bit more details on the location. He can look into that for you.
Who is that?
Lieutenant Peterson, right over here.
Behind you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, ma'am, your name?
Evelyn Unger.
Thank you. Are there any other comments here in the chamber? Come forward, please.
Hi, my name's Margaret Garcia. I live in Clear Lake. I was just hearing her. I wanted to speak to again the paving of the streets. I know that somebody did some paving right there by the park, filled in the potholes, which was a huge improvement. But of course, I hope more is planned in that specific area and elsewhere, because just like I had said previous, people cannot just leisurely walk to the park, take a walk due to the condition of the roads. And these roads have been like this for decades. So, I think someone's got to really just bite the bullet here and maybe start doing some of the roads, like she lives a few streets behind me. It's really a problem. Now, thank God I don't have the wild dog problem in my immediate area. And I'm just grateful for that. But I can only imagine going out, dealing with potholes, and then having to watch out for dog attacks. It's 80-year-old woman. So I hope you guys get on that, wild dogs running around, code enforcement, whoever needs to get out there. But again, just a kind of reiteration on the road conditions. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Mr. Flora, is there a plan to repave or resurface any roads this year?
Yeah, we'll be repaving a little over 25 miles of roads this year. I think we went over this before, but Clear Lake Park, the tree streets, and the area south of Redbud Park.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments here in the chamber? Yes, please come forward.
Just very quickly, I'm Ralph Volpe, and Evelyn is my partner. She was a little, shy as her first time doing. She's almost completely blind now, and what she failed to mention was she's fallen twice on our street. She has both of her knees have been replaced, and they want her to walk. And one time she had to wait till someone saw her laying in the road and came out and helped her get up. Now, I know this is a problem everywhere, but anyway, I'm concerned about her. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments here in the chamber? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor. However, I did receive an emailed public comment from Supervisor Sabatier, which I can read now if you like.
Yes, please.
To Mayor Claffey and council members, I want to thank the Clear Lake City Department for ignoring jurisdictional lines. It would be easy for CPD to say that State Route 53 is the jurisdiction of the California Highway Patrol, and they are to enforce the rules of the road. However, it is well known to the city that many deaths from vehicles, accidents, especially those involving pedestrians, have occurred on that stretch of the highway going through the city limits. Instead of using jurisdiction as an excuse not to keep that area safe, CPD has gone above and beyond on how it tries to keep drivers and pedestrians safe on State Route 53. Multiple times this week, I have seen Officer Eagle and Officer Shores parked in the median or off the side of the highway, forcing people to slow down and pay more attention to the road. I am assuming that they may have also given tickets to some that traveled the highway at that time too. I just want to take the moment to appreciate what CPD does to keep us safe, even in areas that are not necessarily their responsibility. Thank you for going above and beyond. Your actions are recognized. That concludes his statement.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or statements on Zoom?
There are no further comments or statements.
Wonderful. Thank you. We will now close public comment, and City Manager Flora, have you heard word from Supervisor Sabatier?
I believe he's ready now.
All right, we will take a step back here, go to the presentation from PEG TV. Supervisor Sabatier.
If it's possible to let me share my screen. I know it was asking earlier.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Thank you so much. All right, wanted to give you an annual report on updates on PEG. And so this will be a simple presentation. There's not all that much that changes throughout the year, but at least it'll keep you up to date on some of the successes that we've had this past year. And so just again, to quickly go over our board, we have Clear Lake's Mayor David Claffey. We have Lakeport's Mayor Michael Froyo. I'm on there. I'm also the chair. We have the top of the echelon of the all of the local jurisdictions. And then I apologize for the mistype, but that is Kevin Mack from Lake County Office of Education, who has replaced Brock Falkenberg. That way we can continue to have a direct connection with our local educators and their facilities as well. We do still have one vacant position in the board. If you know somebody of interest that you think could benefit the board, please let them know that we are looking for somebody. And if they communicate with me, I'll be able to give them an application for them to fill out. Our station manager, as you all well know, is Thomas DeWalt, and our chief editor is Adam Giordino. So for our operating budget, we have, let me just make sure, there we go. For our 23-25, we actually decreased our expenses. What we did was we reviewed our budget in order to really better understand what it is that we are truly spending. We used to have a lot of things that we were hopeful to spend, but would be on our budget, but never would be utilized. And we wanted to get something that was a little bit more realistic so that we could better understand what our finances were. Really appreciate the work with Kathy Wells this past, I'm gonna say the full past year, in order to better understand where we are. We've had some cleanup to do in order to really ensure that all the correct numbers were in the correct budget units. Really appreciate the time that she spent on all of that. Out of the $26,075 in expenses, we are looking at about $12,000 specifically to our station manager and $4,800 to our editor. They are both highly involved in all of the other work that is being done throughout the community and in placing all of those videos on our YouTube channel and on social media. Also, we do pay in return. It's not really an exchange of money. The city of Clear Lake is supposed to provide us $8,000. We put that money right back into the city as it pays for the facilities and the insurance. And I believe they also do the auditing for us, and that's highly appreciated. Our capital budget, our revenue pass-through is about $60,000. We put down that we're planning to spend $60,000. We've never done that, but we want to keep open. That way we have our budget available to be able to spend through appropriations. We have purchased over, I believe it was about $15,000 last year in our audio video unit. That video unit I'll be talking about in a second, but it has been an absolute change for the type of work that is being done over in PEG TV. And so our current activities, we continue to support local events. In fact, we've had a couple conversations. We haven't finalized on how PEG can be a better sponsor for the city's concert series. We had some deals back in the day of how it is that we can support the concert series. We want to strengthen that. We want to make sure that it's an MOU that is brought maybe even to the city council for approval. We really want to be a good partner and a good sponsor for those events. And of course, we're eligible for making those same types of opportunities happen with both the county and the city of Lakeport. What we've changed as of the past year, this was discussed in the previous annual update, is with the mobile AV unit, we have now been recording the majority, not all, but the majority of all the municipal advisory councils that the Board of Supervisors has. And so there are 6 total councils. We are doing videography for 5 of them. During those council meetings, we are doing Zoom. Sometimes we're streaming straight on YouTube, and we also recording it and then placing it on YouTube for further research for further evidence of the meetings, creates transparency, allows people to go back and review what was discussed. Basically the same exact type of access and transparency that the city council currently has with PEG TV. This has created new revenue streams. We are getting not only paid, the videographers are getting paid for the services, but also PEG TV is collecting money in order to ensure that we can have maintenance on our technology, on our equipment, and being able to replace that technology and equipment as well. There's also new revenues that have come out of all this. We've been invited to for example, right now we're working on the Silver Foundation for their senior summit. We've been invited there. We just got an invitation from Lake County Economic Development Corporation. We've been invited to the 2 Lakeport town halls that just occurred in the past 3 to 6 months. And so we are seeing an increase of interest to get these activities in our community to be have a greater audience. And so we continue to do these things. In fact, one of the exciting things that we are planning to work on in the next 3 to 6 months is to start selling our services to do commercials. We're going to start with local agencies, and we want to start with the local transit authority to do a commercial of taking the bus in order to try and increase the ridership and see how that works. That video will be done for free since it will be the first one, and we want to use that video as a promotion to try and sell those services to other local agencies in order to get them to have greater interest and greater attraction to the public. Our website that we've had, in fact, Mayor Claffey is the one who helped put it together, stays maintained by both Thomas and Adam, is lakepegtv.com. And again, we continue to try and fill a vacant seat. That is one of our future activities that we would like to do. If you know anybody, please let us know. As stated, I will help them out with the application process. We haven't expanded yet into the schools. We are working on that. I did have some conversations with the, what's his, I forget his position, the sports person over at Lower Lake High School. And we are trying to see if we can get access to the videos that they are already producing of the football games. They have a contract with another agency that takes those videos, and we would love to get highlights, show the highlights, and maybe have a end of the week sports highlights reel. That would be fun for the community to be able to watch that. We're going to continue to work on increasing our operational budget. While our success is maybe minimal in comparison to the budget of the city of Clear Lake or the budget of the county of Lake, it is a great success to us to finally have outside revenue streams coming into our budget. And we're going to continue to work and offer more services to the community and keep that increase going. We are still interested in getting more viewers and more memberships, and all of that is by creating content. If you happen to know anybody who creates content, they can submit all of that to us for free to PEG TV, and we will go ahead and post it on Channel 8, on our YouTube channel, and any other area that we can go ahead and put that there. We are still working. This is one of our unfortunate failures of the year. It's been a little bit of a struggle in order to get the technology to communicate appropriately, but the city of Lakeport is still not connected to PEG TV. We are working with Mediacom, and we are trying to fix those problems. At one point, we were able to get the video, but not the audio, and we're continuing to diagnose the problem and try to fix it. We are doing an overall system upgrade for PEG TV. As that upgrade goes from the main office that's in the City Hall at Clear Lake, that's going to move on to the county chambers, and then eventually it'll get to Lakeport, where at that point we hope to fix and finalize the Lakeport PEG connection. And I believe that is my report for you, unless you have any questions or comments for me.
Any questions from the council?
Good report. Thank you.
Wonderful. I will say the mobile town hall units are, I think, one of the biggest steps forward that PEG has made in a little while. They are highly used and I think incredibly valuable in the forums that they are used. So thank you for spearheading that, Bruno.
Oh, absolutely. And just want to thank Thomas. I want to thank Sam Houston, and I want to thank EJ Crandall. They were the ones who were kind of the brains behind that whole operation. And we just happened to have the purse strings to make that possible.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to now jump back ahead to item H, the consent agenda. Does anyone here on the council want to pull something from the consent agenda?
Can I just have a comment on one of them? I see the report from Play Like Waste Solutions. And I like that they're starting finally the pilot program for recycling mobile that's badly needed in the community. So that's a good thing. Thanks. That's all.
Okay. Anyone in the public want to pull an item? All right, hearing none, I'll bring it back to council.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, a second from Councilmember Slutin. Please vote in your portal.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Clerk. Moving on to business, item 10, consideration of resolution 2024-15 supporting the application of Chelsea Investment for the Home Investment Partnerships Grant Program for the development of affordable housing at 15837 18th Avenue in Clear Lake. Mr. Flora.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So I don't think we need to talk too much about the project. You're familiar with it at this point. Been working on this one for a few years. Unfortunately, sort of some of the I guess just the way the development is structured with being state-owned land is making it a little more challenging for the chosen developer, Chelsea Investment Corporation, to get the funding they need to move forward. And so we've had a number of applications this council is approved to either support or apply on behalf of Chelsea Investment to get some funding. At this point, they're focusing on the home program through HCD. And so this would be a $10 million ask. And we do have Heidi and Christopher from Chelsea Investment on the line if you want to hear a little bit from them, but they are continuing to try and identify funding to move this project forward. And so the city would be the applicant in this program. You know, we'll prepare the application and whatnot and submit it. So with that, I guess I would just ask if Heidi and or Christopher wanted to make any comments to the council.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, because sometimes I have a problem with Zoom. I'm Heidi Mather with Chelsea Investment Corporation. With me is my colleague, Christopher Galan. And we, just as Alan mentioned, we've been processing this project for the last few years now. This is 80 units of affordable housing for family. And so we just want to thank Alan and the entire team there at the city for all their support to help us get to where we are. This home funding source would be the last piece of the financing puzzle before we go in for the federal tax credits. So the goal would be to be awarded this funding and then be able to go in for tax credits early next year and start construction the end of next year. So we really appreciate your support and request that you adopt the resolution per city staff recommendation.
All right. Any questions from the council? All right. I'll open it up to the public. Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for deliberation.
I move to approve resolution 2024-15, the governing board of the city of Clear Lake hereby authorize submittal of an application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under the Home Investment Partnership Program and if selected, the execution of a standard agreement, any amendments thereto, and any related document necessary to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program.
I'll second.
A motion from Councilmember Slutin, a second from Councilmember Kramer. Please vote in your portal.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11, public hearing, consideration of updates to Clear Lake Municipal Code Section 3-5 and adopt modifications to the Lake County Fire Protection District fire mitigation fees. Ordinance number 269-2024. City Manager Floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So, before you tonight is the public hearing related to requested adjustments to fire mitigation fees from Lake County Fire Protection District. So we had a workshop a few weeks ago that you all participated in, but just want to give another little high level overview of the process. So, and then we'll also be getting a similar presentation you got last time because it's also required as part of the official public hearing process tonight. So this was initiated all the fire districts together. Hired a consultant to do this study, which you have seen and seen presented. There has been some confusion about the process. It's a little different than some of the other districts are doing because of what was in our ordinance. So I've asked our city attorney to give the council and the public a little bit of an overview of why we're doing it this way.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So really focusing on what's before the council tonight, and that is amending the ordinance. So what I wanted to clarify, the ordinance by the proposed action is just a first reading, has nothing to do yet with approving the ordinance, rejecting or modifying the ordinance in any way. It's really in looking back at section 3-5.8, we realize that the Clear Lake ordinance set a very specific rate on fire mitigation fees, and it set a ceiling. So in order to modify that, you would need to modify the ordinance. And so in terms of making things more efficient and less bureaucratic, instead of having to each time update the ordinance with the first reading, second reading, and the 30-day wait period, what the proposal is in here is to modify the ordinance such that instead of setting a specific rate, it would say the council can just adopt by resolution what that rate would be. So the district has proposed a rate. At this meeting would not be the time to approve that or not. We'll certainly have the discussion in the presentation from Mr. Semenov on that. But it is to hold this first reading to see if you like this process of changing the rate change through a resolution. That would be the time. So we'd do a first reading in theory tonight, have the second reading at the next meeting, which would be April 4th. And in conjunction with that second reading, if we get to that point, the council could have a resolution to approve certain rate settings that you would then have. And so just wanted to clarify that it is not any kind of modification yet of the rate. It's just changing the procedure because staff believes is a more efficient and less bureaucratic way to do so. Just want to share that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, I think next we have Dimitri come up and he can go through his presentation.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So what we will go through tonight is very similar to what we went through a couple of weeks ago. It's a requirement for the public hearing process anytime that a fee is implemented or updated. So we'll go through the presentation that's essentially the same in content. We have received communication from you, Mayor, with some questions, and we will address those questions as we go along through the presentation. And then at any point in time, as we go through the material, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, please do. So, and this presentation will fulfill the public hearing requirement of the Mitigation Fee Act. So with this, if we can have the next slide, please. All right. So what are mitigation fees? Mitigation fees are also known as development impact fees or impact fees. It's a one-time fee that's imposed on new development as a condition of approval. And it is needed for that development to pay for the public facilities that are needed to serve that development. So different states have different legislation. Most states reference this type of fee as impact fee or development impact fee. In California, we have the Mitigation Fee Act. And the common reference in California is the mitigation fees. So mitigation fees are one of the ways that the California legislature has put in place for public agencies such as cities, counties, special districts to be able to fund the facilities to serve new development. As new growth is happening, what we've seen over the years is with the limitation on the ability of agencies to raise revenues through property taxes, the mitigation fees are one of the ways that the California legislature allows public agencies to get the funding to keep up with the growth. Next slide, please. So some of the definitions of the terms that are used. So public facilities is pretty much any type of facility. And in this case, we're talking about the fire district. So it is any type of physical structures, land, buildings, whether it's fire stations, admin buildings, storage buildings, towers, anything of that nature. Any type of rolling stock that includes apparatus, ambulances, any type of specialty equipment. Not the case in Clear Lake, but some fire districts even operate helicopters. So that would be covered by public facilities. And then as well as the major equipment that has long-term service life. So that includes breathing apparatus, that includes gurneys, that includes medical boxes, furniture at the stations. So those types of facilities and equipment that are needed to provide the service to the community. So that's the term public facility. Whenever we use the term, that implies all the physical assets that the district owns. And then the next one is, what is development? Development is all new private residential and non-residential development within the district service area. That term excludes public buildings, and it also excludes any ADUs that are smaller than 750 square feet under the current laws. If the laws change at some point and will allow assessment of units or assessment of fees on ADUs, then that will change the program as well. But right now we're complying with the law from that standpoint. And when we talk about new development and we talk about square footage, it's the square footage under the roof. So uncovered patio would not count towards that, but a garage, a covered patio, a carport, as well as the living quarters, shop, any type of building that's under roof would be covered by the fee program. So mitigation fees cannot be used for services. It cannot be used for deficiencies. It cannot be used for renovation. But mitigation fees are meant to fund the expansion of the system. So, for example, an agency should not be using fees to fund replacement of existing equipment, but addition to the existing equipment can be used, can be funded by the fees. Also, upgrades from, in the case of a fire engine, from a Type 1 engine to an aerial ladder truck can be funded by the fees. That difference in terms of the cost from the previous type of apparatus to the upgraded apparatus, as well as expansions of buildings, addition of sleeping quarters, equipping new stations, all that would be covered by the fees. But the renovation and services cannot be covered by the fees. Next slide, please. So the history of the fire mitigation fee in the city of Clear Lake. And the original ordinance was adopted in 1993. Really, there has not been any major change to the fee program itself since that time for 31 years. The fee program set the fee ceiling of anywhere from 35 cents to $1.05 per square foot There was 12 different categories of properties spelled out in the fee ordinance, such as single-family residential unsprinkled, single-family residential sprinklered, and as well as height. What has been happening over the last number of years, the fee has been collected at $1 per square foot, and we've talked previously about the history trying to figure out how that came about. Since the program was put in place, a number of things have changed. And what's not there, but there used to be two separate districts. Was it?
Lakeshore and Lower Lake.
Yes, Lakeshore and Lower Lake. Now it's one district. The district has started providing EMS services. A lot of the facility fees went up, costs went up significantly. Back in the 90s, a firehouse could be built in the range of $64 to $70 per square foot. Now the current costs are $600 plus dollars per square foot. A Class A engine pumper used to go for $200,000, $350,000, and this is based on the supporting studies that were done when the fee was initially put in place. And now the current costs in the market are $700,000. Water tender went from $110,000, $125,000 to $400,000, $550,000. So we're seeing very significant cost increases over the last 3 decades, and which is not surprise for anybody. Next slide, please. So legal framework, the mitigation fees, impact fees have been tested extensively by the court system. And a lot of the things that we have in the laws are based on the case law. And the most important cases in the history of mitigation fees are Nolan and Dolan. And basically what comes out of the litigation is anytime a fee is implemented or updated, there needs to be a nexus. A nexus means a reasonable relationship. And 3 components of nexus as defined in the court decisions are: the development must create a need for facilities funded by the fee, development must receive a benefit from facilities funded by the fee, and the fees must be proportional to the development's impact on the facilities. So the need, the benefit, and the proportionality are the 3 components of the nexus as defined by the case law. Next slide, please. In California, as I mentioned, we have the California Mitigation Fee Act, which is a part of the government code that really spells out how in California mitigation fee programs work and operate. And one of the key things in the law is anytime a fee is implemented or updated, there needs to be 5 nexus findings made and documented. And those findings are the purpose of the fee needs to be identified, the use of the fee has to be specified, and then also the benefit, the need, and the proportionality that are documented in the court decisions also need to be supported. Next slide, please. So in terms of the fee adoption process, impact fees, mitigation fees, they are imposed as a condition of development approval by land use authority. And that land use authority is vested with cities and counties. Fire districts do not have that authority. And but the practice in the state is that cities and counties adopt mitigation fee programs on behalf of fire agencies. So administratively, the process goes as follows. The fire district prepares the nexus study, does the analysis, reviews the analysis, makes sure that the analysis complies with the requirements of the state law, and then adopts the nexus study and forwards the nexus study to the governing body of the city or the county that they're asking to adopt the fee program on their behalf. The process on the district side follows the same requirements of public hearing as on the city and county side. So the district has gone through the same process. They held the hearings, posted notice, had the hearing, adopted the nexus study, forwarded to you with a request to adopt it on their behalf. And now it's the same process here. The notice was posted. We held a workshop, which is not a part of their legal requirement, but it's a good practice to have. And then now is the public hearing. And then at once you adopt the fee program, it goes into effect 60 days later. So that's the kind of the legal process, the legal, and the calendar as well. Next slide, please. So the Nexus findings that are documented in the Nexus study that you have seen, that's part of your package, is for the fee, the purpose of the fee is for the new development to contribute its fair share of existing and future one-time public facility costs. So that's the purpose of the fee. The use of the fee is to fund expansion of and addition to the district's public facilities. So once again, the fees can only be used to expand the system of the district. And then the new development within the district service area increases the need for fire protection and emergency medical response public facilities. The benefit is new development within the district service area benefits from availability of fire protection and emergency medical response public facilities. And fire mitigation fee allocates to new development its proportionate share of the district's existing and future public facility costs. So those are the 5 Nexus findings that are required by the state law that are documented in the Nexus study. Next slide, please. So talking about the methodology, how we went about calculating the fees. And this is where we'll throw some numbers around and then answer the questions that we've received. So in terms of methodology, it's very important to properly account for the existing development within the service area. And to do that, we started with the county parcel data set. The county provided a very extensive spreadsheet that lists every parcel within the county for the district, that identifies the address, the owner, the APN, the square footage, the assessed values, the acreage of the parcel. And we started with that. And then we started reviewing it to make sure that we capture all the existing development. So one of the first things we found out is that the county data set does not include manufactured homes. So, but it does mark the parcels that have manufactured homes on them. So we manually went through every parcel that has a manufactured home, pulled it up on Google Maps, Google Earth, and made an estimate of square footage of structures on that parcel. For parcels that have manufactured home communities, we did the count of the homes within the community, and also made a determination based on the imagery, whether it's a single wide or double wide, and added that square footage into the data set. Then we also looked at non-residential parcels. What we found is quite a few of them, they didn't have the right square footage information. So we pulled up any parcel that had an assessed value of over $50,000, but didn't have any significant square footage assigned to it, and then manually looked up those parcels, did the estimate of square footage based on Google Earth calculations, and added that back into the data set. And we also went through the last 5 years of fee collection, pulled up all the information on the properties that pulled building permits, and added that square footage into the data set as well. So the reason why it's so important is the approach that is utilized to calculate the fees is we use what is called the capacity-based methodology. Capacity-based methodology is there is a system that provides the services, and it can accommodate a certain amount of development, right? And at some point where it hits the limit, it needs to be expanded. And the way fire services work is you cannot really say that this firehouse services this neighborhood or this street or this home. The nature of fire service, you have a lot of different things going on. You have multiple calls for service. You have multiple accidents. Sometimes you need to have several engines or multiple vehicles responding to the same call. So you have traffic going back and forth. You may have, equipment that's housed at one station responding to a call, and then there's a call received from a closer address. So, the crew goes from a different location. So it's a system that really provides coverage to the entire district area. You can't really allocate home to a station. It's really the combined system. So, and whether it's existing facilities or future facilities, they will serve both the existing development and the future development combined. So we can't say that this one additional firehouse or an expansion of a firehouse will serve the newly added homes. It's everything serving everybody. So the danger in undercalculating the existing development is that we have a lower base that should be bearing the bulk of the burden of the facility of the district's facilities. So that's why we were so careful to capture as much of the missing data in the county data set as possible. So because if we didn't go through the process, the fee would unfavorably allocate costs to future development over the existing development. So that was the reason why we're so careful in analyzing the existing development. So going back to the capacity-based system, so because of how fire districts operate, it's really, it's much more art than a science in terms of figuring out the capacity, how many homes you can service, because again, traffic patterns, different types of calls happening at the same time, all that puts demand on the entire infrastructure. So you can't scientifically precisely calculate how many square feet of fire stations you need to service specific population or a specific area. But when the system is not working, when the capacity is stressed out, you definitely know that. So, and that's where we as a consultant, we rely on the expertise of the fire district to provide us with the scope of the system that they need to operate and to provide the service to their area. So that answers, that's our answer to your question. And do you feel that that's an adequate answer? Do you have any clarifications you would like to ask?
Well, no, I don't feel like that's an adequate answer. To say it's more of an art than a science, are there no national standards or at least I understand we can't be incredibly precise, but is there ballpark capacity estimates that you guys could point to?
Surprisingly, no, because each area is so unique. The topography, the development patterns, the density of development, how many engines are located at each firehouse, how far they have to travel. So surprisingly, we have not been able to identify that there is a uniform factor that that should be used for fire agencies.
Okay, thank you.
So that was the first step, is figure out how much development do we actually have. So the second step was to take a look at and try to identify how much development we can expect, right? And currently we try to tie to the California Department of Finance demographic projections which go through 2040. And we couldn't break out the district from the area in those projections. There's really one thing I do want to mention, that's completely off topic, but the California Special District Association is, along with their national counterpart, is really been putting a lot of effort to help put a legal definition of special districts into the law, which would allow the census to actually start tracking data on a district by district basis. So if you get a chance to opine on that initiative, please support it, because much more data will become available and much better information will be available to serve the communities. But so what we did is we matched the same term, 2040, and then we started, we interviewed the chief and looked at what's been happening within the district and what are some of the major projects that are on a drawing map, right? To try to figure out how much development we can expect. So we made projections for residential development and non-residential development, as well as looked at how much addition to residential development is can be expected to happen. And Mayor, you asked why we didn't look at multifamily. Multifamily, when we went into the data set, multifamily right now constitutes 3.27% of the square footage of residential development within the district. So it is a very tiny portion of the development. And it's really hard statistically, it's really hard to make a case to support, or make any significant analysis based on so little data, such a small sample. So talking to the district, the decision was made to, even though there is some evidence that multifamily does generate more call volume per square footage than single family, but we felt that given the very small portion of the multifamily development within the district, it probably is a little bit too early to make a strong conclusion that multifamily should be paying more per square foot than single family. Because if looking at the patterns and what we've seen from other agencies, which supports the data, is multifamily, if it's broken out, usually results in a higher fee per square foot. At this point, the district doesn't feel that this is justified, given how small portion multifamily makes up of residential development within the district area.
Well, I raised the question because your projections have more multifamily square footage coming into the city over the next 18 years than non-residential. This, we know we have data around. There's many other communities and fire districts that have done these calculations. If you were to analyze the copious data that's out there, where would you come down and using your allocation factor as the determining factor, where would you slot multifamily?
So what we've seen on multifamily is the fee is usually 25 to 35% higher than on multifamily than single family, whenever that such allocation is made. A lot of this fee data, though, is based on methodologies that make a lot of assumptions about population. It rarely takes into consideration actual call volume. It's usually based on a people per household and the square footage comparisons. And a lot of the data also comes from the recent revision to the Mitigation Fee Act, which now requires that the fee is assessed on a per square foot basis for residential development rather than per unit. So I think what we're going to see over the next several years is we're going to see the fee programs coming into compliance with the law. A lot of additional evidence will be considered. And also in case of Clear Lake and the Lake County Fire Protection District is there's been a couple of large new developments built, multifamily developments built in the last year. So they're just coming online. We don't have enough data to analyze them. In terms of projections through 2040, even though they seem significant, we're really assuming that a new multifamily project gets built every 3 to 4 years. So it's not this massive amount of development. And the new law requires that nexus studies are updated at least once every 8 years. So if we're talking about 1 or 2 projects that will come online between now and the next update, and we'll have more data from the recent projects that have come online. At that point, it will make sense to update the fee program and see if there is a significant impact difference for multifamily versus single family. So that would be our suggestion, is just given how small multifamily is and lack of enough statistical data, just give it a little bit more time, and next time around really take a look at it and see, okay, based on the data that we have, what's the impact differential, and does it warrant a separate fee level? So that would be our suggestion. So in terms of the existing development makes up about 17.4 million square feet within the district, and the district covers the city as well as a large portion of the county. Over the next 18 years, we're projecting an additional 1.5 million square feet of development, residential and non-residential, to be built within the district. So it's over the next 18 years, it's about 8-9% growth, which is not significant by any stretch of imagination. It's a pretty slowly growing area. So it's not anything that extraordinary that we expect to happen. So by 2040, we're expecting the total development to make up about 18.9 million square feet. So then that was the first step, is figuring out how much development do we have, how much development we expect. So the next step was to take a look at what are the public facilities that are owned and operated by the district, and what additional public facilities are needed to accommodate future growth. And that number on the combined basis comes out to about $37 million. So that's the value of the public facilities that are operated by the districts already and that need to be added. And that plan, calls for construction of one additional fire station, and as well as acquisition of an aerial ladder truck. Those are kind of the big ticket items. And at this point, I would like to ask the chief to come up and explain why the additional firehouse is necessary. Is that okay?
Yes, please, chief.
Okay.
Afternoon, how are you? Willie Sabata, local fire chief. When we look at the growth of the community, strategic placement of your fire apparatus and equipment is essential. So as that area grows, we're going to have an increase in traffic, pedestrian traffic, and there's going to be a lot more activity. And when we look at response to fires and emergencies, when you go into cardiac arrest, we have 4 minutes to start breathing for you. You look at some brain death. So having those resources there at Station 71, which is the airport, is going to put that response time within a pretty much national standard. So our projection, my projection, is that we currently have Station 6.5. We cover 165 square miles. So 6.5 would cover from the entire south end of Anderson Ranch Parkway, which we go clear out to the Third Creek crossing of Knoxville, Berryessa. We go all the way to 8,000 DNA Ridge Rock, Highway 29, and to Hoffacker. And then we go all the way to Westwood Mobile Home Park, which is Canocti Vista Drive. So we've got a pretty good sporadic area that 6.5 area would cover. The new 7.1 station would cover from Anderson Ranch north all the way to approximately Olympic Drive and cover the east side of that highway. The Station 70, which is our current station, would cover the rest of that population of within the city and then expand all the way out along to the peninsula. The 20-year plan is, if the peninsula were to grow, is to build and staff a station that will pick up the peninsula and come all the way probably down to the area of the Gooseneck. So it is critical. The response times play a big part in where you put your equipment and your facilities. And it's, we are a fire department, but 80% of what we do is EMS, and that critical time of getting on scene is instrumental. And the need for the aerial, when we look at the Nexus study, we look at 2 stories are great. Are those going to be essential for the rescue operations and even fire containment to get above that and be able to have your elevated master stream as well as your ground resources doing suppression? When we look at the 15,500, that's a single story, but it's a footprint. So we're not talking a small mall or a Trader Joe's. We're talking the big, large, where you have that much of a footprint, where it does take that coordinated effort of elevated fire streams of greater than 1,000 gallons a minute, along with establishing and securing with your engine, your fire department connection, which operates your sprinklers, which keep the fire in what we call an incipient phase, hopefully, and then provide those ground resources to do that interior contain, control, and extinguish the fires.
Thank you, Chief.
You bet. I'll do myself up.
All right, so the combined value of existing and planned facilities is about $37 million. Then we looked at how much money the district has in its mitigation fee fund, and that was about $141,000. So we subtracted that from the value of the facilities. So the remaining balance is $36.9 million. So that's the cost of the facilities that needs to be allocated to the entire existing and future development to calculate the fair share per square foot of development. Right? So it's the entire system of the district that the district operates divided by the total square footage of existing development and future development as well.
So the existing development, but you can only, the nexus is that you only can charge development fee on new development.
Correct.
So shouldn't you subtract out the existing development?
No, so the reason why we value the entire system of the district, existing and future facilities, right? So the total cost, what they have and what they still need to add to their system. And then we divide it across the entire population that is currently being serviced and the population that will be added.
Okay.
Right? Because that allocates the total cost to the total population. So everybody, even existing residents, they have to participate in the fair share of the costs.
But they already have an existing building and they're not going to pay any more development fee.
Correct, they won't. But at the same time, they do pay some property taxes, they do pay some fees. The district does generate revenues through grants, for example. So they have paid the fees as well. So that's reflected in the value of the existing facilities.
Are you getting this?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not getting it. Sorry.
He's the sleep one, so I always ask her, because
So,
I'm totally not
this-
getting it.
I think if you just have for new development, then new development pays the fee that generates the additional equipment, additional whatever it is.
Mhm.
But I don't see why you have to include the existing development. They already paid their fee.
Right, so to maybe help illustrate it a different way. If this was empty territory, like there was nothing was built, right? And we were expecting the growth from 0 to 18.9 million square feet. Okay, and there was no facilities and all the $37 million of facilities had to be built, right? What would be the fee? That would be 37 million divided by 18.9 million. That would be the fee per square foot.
Okay.
So it's the same methodology to calculate the fee going forward. So
I don't think how you can calculate as a nexus. Though I'm not following with that.
So
Maybe I'm not seeing it. I'm
so it goes back to how the fire system operates. Everybody benefits from the entire system.
So what you're saying then is that the existing facilities are not adequate enough?
So what we're saying is the existing facilities will serve, will have been serving and will continue to serve the existing population as well as new population. And whenever the additional facilities are added, they will serve not just the new population, but also the existing population. So to make sure that there's a fair share allocation per square foot of residential development, you have to take the entire cost and divide it across the entire development within the district.
Doesn't seem right.
Is
Am I
that,
thinking wrong? I don't know.
that 37 million total cost, is that in 2024 dollars or?
$2023. Yeah.
$23. Not going back to 1993.
No. For what we did though for existing building facilities is we used the insured value as the proxy for the cost. So which is arguably if the facility burned down, you could collect that much in insurance proceeds to rebuild it.
All right, so that was how you came up with. I'm sorry. So that's how you came up with the 37 million was to go to insured replacement cost
Mhm.
of the buildings And how about the equipment?
Replacement cost of the apparatus as well.
And insured cost replacement? Of replacement. Okay.
Let's continue.
Okay. So when we did that, the net cost is $36.9 million. And we allocated, like I said, across the development footprint within the district. And then we come to the next question that Mary, that you asked is, we started looking at, is there a significant difference in terms of how much demand residential and non-residential development is placing on the fire department? Okay, and we went through 2 years, 2 full calendar years of call data, 2021 and 2022 calendar years, because at that time when we were doing this, it was still 2023, so we didn't have the full year of data. And then 2020, because of the COVID, we felt it was not the right year to look at the call volumes because of how much time people spent at home. And what we found in those 2 years, on a per 1,000 square feet of residential development, the district responded to 0.41 of a call. So within 2 years, each 1,000 square feet of residential development resulted in 0.41 of a service call. Okay. At the same time, 1,000 square feet of non-residential development resulted in 0.97 calls in 2 years. So more than double the call volume for compared to residential development. Okay, and so if a case could be made that the fees should be allocated based on the call volume, and if that was the case, then non-residential development would end up with a fee that's almost double the fee of the residential development. But then we started thinking with and discussing with the district is whether or not that information seems right. Like when they respond to phone call, to service calls, what actually happens? And what we found is a lot of the time when they do respond to a call for service at a non-residential address, it's really a resident who is there that needs the service. So when we started trying to, based on the district's experience, see if there is a way to adjust that calculation based on the true service demand. And the district felt that the delta between residential and non-residential is not double or more than double, but actually about 25% more for non-residential development than for residential development. So that's just based on experience and seeing what type of calls they're getting, what happens when the calls are made. So the allocation factors, instead of being 2 to 1, were set at 1 for residential and 1.25 for non-residential. And that was the base factor that we used to allocate the cost per square foot of residential and non-residential development. And when that adjustment was made, residential development ended up with $1.89 per square foot, the allocated cost of the fire district system. And non-residential development ended up with $2.36 per square foot for the district facilities. Did you have a question?
When you're allocating residential development to non-residential development, i.e. commercial, did you go back over the last, to 30 years and say, okay, we have X number of houses and we've got and multiple family dwellings and X number of commercial buildings, and just took that same ratio and moving it forward? Did you look at that?
No, so we looked at just 2 years of calls. So call data is kind of the proxy for the demand.
So for 2 years, 2021, 2022?
Correct.
For houses and multifamily residential that were built and commercial that were built?
Correct.
Okay. Did you give any thought? You probably gave some thought, but any, obviously I liked your comment, more art than science. And I think that's what you're looking at here, and maybe unnecessarily, but you know, the hope is that we're gonna be developing the shopping center going forward and some other, well, those are public facilities, but which is gonna be a major construction. And it's gonna take a lot of houses to add up to the amount of footage from the commercial going forward over the next, I don't know, 5-10 years. Or 5 to 8 years, maybe till your next Nexus study. It's something to think about.
Right. So one of the challenges, we thought about like going further back, right before COVID and pulling some cold data. The challenge with that is it becomes really hard to track how much development actually was present back several years ago. Right. We could try to back out the fee data and make that the adjustment. But the further back you go, the less certain you are. So all of a sudden, we have the precise number of service calls. Your district keeps really good data on that. But going back and having annual data for how many square feet of development we have, that's really, really problematic.
But that's really, really important in going forward and projecting these costs.
Correct. So one of the things that we had, one of the conversations we had with all the fire districts is how important going forward is the record keeping data. And really truly understanding what's happening, looking at how much multifamily, what type of multifamily, right? Because different multifamily projects would have different call patterns. If you have, age-restricted multifamily housing, it would generate way more call volume than just regular multifamily housing. Those aspects would have to be taken into consideration and really paid attention to, because it all comes, and we now live in the age of data. Right. And capturing the data is more and more important, and capturing the right data in the right way allows us to make better decisions. So what we're dealing with right now is trying to make the best decision with the data that we have. And then also figuring out what data we can collect better going forward, so that next time around we have to make the fee adjustment, that we adjust any methodology to reflect what we learn about the patterns of the service demand. Does that make sense? So that's the allocation that the district felt very comfortable with, the allocation factors and the cost allocation. Oh, sorry, next slide. Right, so then we looked at what's happening in the surrounding jurisdictions, right? We looked at the fee studies that were adopted in 2021 through 2023 here in the Northern California area. And there were several, we were able to find 6 studies in this proximity that have been updated for fire fees specifically. And there's 2 studies that we found in Yolo County, Esparto and Willow Oaks. So they just completely did away with distinctions between residential, non-residential. Everything gets charged the same fee. For Esparto, it's $1.48 per square foot. For Willow Oaks, it's $1.69 per square foot. Then City of Wairika, they settled also on a flat fee, regardless of the development type of $2.03 per square foot. And then 3 districts had a different consultant that calculated fees for different types of property. And we can't say that we're completely comfortable with the methodology that they use, given the number of assumptions that they made and not relying on the actual data and the call volume. A lot of the assumptions were used based on, well, there's so many people on average nationwide per square foot of office space or retail space. And what we've seen over and over is each region is very, very different. And sometimes applying each property type can be very different. So sometimes applying nationwide assumptions to a local economy can result in numbers that don't always make sense. So, but nevertheless, in those three areas, Anderson Valley CSD, single family fee is $2.13 per square foot, multifamily fee of $2.54 per square foot, retail commercial is $2.14, and office is $2.87. Then in Sonoma County Fire Protection District, single family $1.75, multifamily $2.31, retail commercial $1.95, and office $3.20. And then Sonoma Valley Fire Protection District, single family $1.72, multifamily $2.91, retail commercial $1.95, and office $3.23. So those are the recently adopted fees. Another two things that are very kind of common across all these fee programs is each fee program has an automatic annual inflation adjustment. And also every fee program has an administrative surcharge component varying between 2% and 4%. So that's what's the trends has been in the region in surrounding areas over the last couple of years. Next slide, please. So as a part of this effort, we updated the fee calculations for all 5 districts within Lake County and really looked at each specific district, each development patterns, each fire district system, like what stations they have, what apparatus they have, what they need to add, and provided the fee calculation for each district separately. So, and these are the fee programs that are currently being proposed in Lake County for all five fire districts. So Lake County Fire Protection District, including the 2% administrative surcharge, a fee of $1.93 per square foot for residential and $2.41 per square foot of non-residential. Another thing that, as we were calculating the demand, one of the things that came up was something that Chief referenced, is certain buildings, certain types of buildings, they require the district to have an aerial ladder truck. And those two types of buildings are either 3-story and higher structures or large footprint, kind of single story big box development, over 15,500 square feet. So, and really that's reserved for, super centers, for tenants like Walmart, Target, and a lot of the smaller, retail kind of goes under that square footage. So, and we looked at what would be the difference in going from a type 1 engine, which is a typical fire truck that you see on the street, to an aerial ladder truck. And so what we saw was the increase is about $650,000 to upgrade from a regular fire engine to an aerial ladder truck is about $650,000. So looking at how much new development is expected and making some assumptions about how much of that development would fall within the 3-story and above or large single-story footprint, if we allocated that to just that development, it would result in a surcharge of $5.31 per square foot. So, which is completely unreasonable. And it would pretty much make sure that no new development of that size happens. So recognizing that there's certain development within the district that would benefit from having an aerial engine already, and then understanding that not everything can be placed on new development, the district decided to limit the surcharge for these types of properties for 3-story residential, 3-story and above residential, and non-residential 15,500 square feet footprint to 50 cents per square foot. So that's the surcharge that's on that fee schedule. So that's Lake County, $1.93 per square foot for residential, $2.41 non-residential, and a high impact surcharge of 50 cents per square foot on top of either one. Kelseyville, $1.50 across the board. Lakeport Fire Protection District, $2 per square foot for residential, $2.45 non-residential, and 50 cents high impact surcharge, similar to what we just described. North Shore, $2.02 across the board. South Lake County, $2 per resident for residential, $2.63 for non-residential. So these are the fees that are going to the county as well as to the city of Lakeport for Lakeport Fire Protection District as well. And the hearings are set, I believe, April 16th for that. So all fee programs include the 2% administrative surcharge that's reflected in those amounts. And then all of them include automatic annual inflation adjustment. So next slide, please. So what the district is asking you to approve and what the Nexus study documents is the residential square fee, base fee per square foot of $1.89 and administrative surcharge of 2% of 4 cents per square foot, totaling $1.93. And then base fee of $2.36 for non-residential with administrative surcharge of 2%, 5 cents per square foot, adding up to $2.41. And then high impact surcharge of 49 cents per square foot with administrative surcharge of 1 cent per totaling 50 cents per square foot. So that fee would apply to all new development. It includes an automatic annual inflation adjustment. The administrative surcharge, what it allows the districts is to cover the costs of compliance with the requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act. So, and that includes record keeping, the preparation of annual reports that are required by the Act, as well as the regular updates to the Nexus studies. And I believe that's, projected fee revenues. So basically, what we're seeing is a typical house within the residential house within the district is about 1,600 square feet. So currently at $1 per square foot, it's the fee, the fire fee per house is about $1,600. And with the increase, we're looking at a fee of roughly 31 to 3,200 square feet on average per typical home. So in terms of the projected fee revenue, and that's total fee, it's not the increased fee, but the total fee revenue projected over the next 18 years, it's 3.1 million. In terms of planned facility costs is 19.5 million. With available a little bit of money in mitigation fee fund, 141,000. The district still needs to identify funding sources, whether it's through bonding, through general fund revenues, through grants of $16.2 million to cover the costs of the planned facilities. So the mitigation fee is just a small component of the funding program for the facilities that the district is looking to develop. And let's see. I believe that answers all the questions that you asked.
In the email, yes.
Yes.
I imagine there's going to be a few more today.
Yes. No, I wanted to make sure that we didn't omit anything.
No, I appreciate the very thorough report. And I've had a chance to dig through it a bit. You've done a great job collecting a lot of information on our city and our district. One of the things you mentioned, I just want to confirm this. So you said there's a danger in undercalculating the existing development.
Correct.
Based on the work that you've done so far, are you confident that you haven't undervalued the existing development?
I would say with 99.8% confidence level that we've captured as much as we could have.
Excellent.
We've blown the budget on that particular exercise very significantly.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's going to drive, I guess, some of my follow-up questions here. Let's start with the allocation factor. So you have it right now, residential at 1.0. Non-residential development at 1.25. If we were to use the numbers, the direct data that is supplied above, we'd basically be looking at 1/2.34. Does that sound accurate as an allocation factor? So 2.34 for non-residential development?
You know what?
It's okay. Hang on.
I can pull up the spreadsheet and actually run the calculation on the spot. Would that be of interest?
Yeah. I actually have it too. So Based on that, if we went with the direct data, we'd be looking at basically this cost per square foot, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yeah, what's up there is what we started with initially.
okay.
Very simple.
So there's a little bit of art in that allocation factor, correct?
Yes,
Okay. You also did the study for Lakeport as well, correct? And so if we look at some of the work you did there, you came back with a cost per $2.89 per square foot, correct?
Correct.
And then that was reduced to $2 and then $2.45 per square foot for non-residential. And I think the basis of that was the district believes in affordable housing or something along those lines. Can you clarify?
yes, so if you compare this study to the studies of some other districts where I believe Lakeport and South Lake, they lowered the requested fee amounts from the calculated allocation. What happened there is basically, though, in both cases, the districts made a decision to forego some of the fee revenue. So they, it was coming out to, in case of Lakeport, $2.89 per square foot. And the district felt that in case of housing, going above $2 per square foot, it would be challenging. Same thing, charging $2.89 per square foot for non-residential is also a bit too steep. So they came in with a proposal to charge lower fee amounts. And in their case, it does not create a rebalancing of the fee like what we saw in with Lake County Fire Protection District, because the calculated fee amount would have been so much greater. In this case, the changing the factors, because the calculated fee amount is not that, if you go across the board, is not that much higher. So the district is not asking to reduce the fee. It's just the art is how much demand do we allocate to residential versus non-residential.
What is politically appetizing or incentivizing to a developer, correct?
Well,
Sorry.
Yes.
If you're gonna speak, you need to come up to the mic.
Also, I was going to point out is that representatives of Lakeport are here, myself, and I do have a board member here. While he can't speak for the board, he can speak to his position on the on this. I'm not trying to override, so unless I'm called back up.
I'm asking the questions about Lakeport, so I feel it's appropriate. Go right ahead to speak, yeah.
Okay.
I'm asking about Lakeport and you're here, so
Patrick Wrights, I'm the fire chief for Lakeport Fire Protection District. And when we looked at the numbers of 289 and higher for both residential and commercial, and we looked at what other fees were being charged for new development from other agencies. The concern is across the board. And I can't speak for those other agencies specifically, but I can tell you the conversations that we've had dealing with those agencies and Lakeport Fire as they relate to new development. The concern is, are we dissuading development? Not low-income development, not malls or commercial development, but are we going to be dissuading development? And the consensus across the board with my board was there is a concern with the 289 cost. And is there another way that we can make those costs up in the future? My district, we have a tax measure, and while we're limited as to what we can use that tax measure for as well, this mitigation fees limits us. We really did not want to, and what we did hear from our residents loud and clear was, look, you're going to be getting additional money through the tax measure. And we have some concerns over what development is going to cost us. So my board elected to drop the cost, and we also reshaped our ask, which was we looked at what was going to be what we were looking at down the road as far as projects for the district for facilities development.
Gotcha.
Specifically facilities development.
Well, Chief, I appreciate that sentiment, and that's sort of what I'm getting to here. So I do appreciate that that is a consideration the district had. I guess my question would then be for your district, your board, or Mr. Seminoff for your company. What expertise is in your organization that was able to make that determination as to what would be appropriate for the community based on attractiveness of development?
So past history, for starters.
So I understand there's metrics. I'm wondering, is there specific folks within your organization that specialize in this?
In Nexus study?
No, in attracting developers and understanding the push and pulls of the market.
Well, we're not out courting development, but we hear from developers on a daily basis when they come through with their permits, looking and permit fees and the understanding. And then we've also reached out to our community, talked to developers, that are, I don't want to say influential, but prominent within the community to get their feelings on this, as well as individuals that may be building on or developing on a lesser scale, including our business owners, asking, what is the price per square foot, of retail space, and where is this going? Is it going up? Is it going down? Do we need new retail? If we're looking at new retail space, is it going to be affordable or comparable to draw people from the spaces they're in into the newer spaces? So we've had those conversations. I don't know that there's, if we're talking MBAs doing, deep dives into analytics, no, that's not happening.
Okay.
The fact that our board, just like your council, are local community members, and they hear from their community, their constituents. That we have longtime residents and longtime members of the district that do carry some value and have some historical knowledge and what works, what doesn't work.
Yep. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Chief, did you do any, in talking to the community, to the Lake Forest City Council, to whatever, any idea of the ratio of residential to non-residential development you're expecting going forward for the next, 8 years?
Yeah, and we're confident with the Nexus study and the numbers that were produced in the Nexus study with where we've come from and where we're going.
Where we're going. I think that's more important, quite honestly, is where we're going.
Right, but we always have to look at the history.
That's what,
and certainly we know before all this started, we know of a couple of big developments, some that never materialized that actually cost the district.
Mhm.
And then particularly there's one on the north end of the district that never materialized. We built a fire station out of it, and we've never been able to staff it.
that was a large housing development, if I remember correctly.
And resort
And
development
resort,
as
yeah.
well. We have currently on our future builds, we have a large commercial track that is on the west side of town. We have a large residential tract that's getting ready to be developed on the west side of town or has potential. We have a redevelopment area that's right off the freeway. Everybody knows it. It's that ugly shopping plaza that is slated for redevelopment. So we have some really good ideas right now of where we're going with that. We know where our development is stagnated on the south side because there's no water available and the city can't annex, so on and so forth.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I know I sent us in this direction, but I appreciate you speaking up. I do have one more Lakeport question, but it's more calculations. Oh, for the chief? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Please, Chief, if you could come back up, we have a second question.
Well, what were your fees before you guys raised them? What were their?
Well, we haven't raised our rates. So
But they're the same.
we're in the same position as all 5 fire districts. We are all stuck at $1 per square foot for the last 31 years.
And if, okay, so that's good. I wanted to know that. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
My next question for the,
Thank you, Chief. Give the men some water. Appreciate it. So I really am appreciative of the chief and the thought that he puts into that. I am concerned that it's fire districts making those determinations and not county supervisors who are courting development and the city in this case. One last piece about Lakeport, and that is the ladder truck surcharge. So you mentioned that the difference here is $650, but in Lakeport, I believe the report said it was $400. What's the
Correct.
discrepancy there?
So the discrepancy is how much the standard engine is running. So each district has its own needs and they choose a certain configuration of the equipment. In case of Lake County, and I can.
That's fair. I guess
Yeah.
my question is, how did we end up with a perfectly precise 50% surcharge for both communities?
Because both, going back to the art versus science,
Okay.
if you fully charge the impact, you're coming out with a number that is so much larger.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I was looking at the data and didn't see, but if it's more art than science, I understand that to some
Yeah,
extent.
the surcharge in case of Lake County Fire Protection District went from fully calculated $531 per square foot to 50 cents per square foot. So it's like 1/10 of what it actually costs the district to upgrade.
Okay. Let's get back to capacity and the use of the capacity-based methodology. As the chief said, adding another fire station will help us improve response time to higher national standards. But it's my understanding that impact fees, and that's laudable and we want that, but impact fees shouldn't take that into account. It should be based on what the existing level of service is, correct?
No, the fire district has or any agency for that matter, they have a lot of leeway in determining what they need to provide the service. So if one of the conversations I had with the fire chief and not being local, like I can't be as detailed, but if there's a significant development by the airport/peninsula, if I'm not watching it, it will create disruption in the traffic patterns that will result in extended response time from the current stations. That's why they felt that there's a need for an interim station in between the two existing stations to be able to accommodate local volume and response time. So that's where the district is determining what type of facilities and infrastructure they need to be able to provide the service that they feel they're held accountable for.
Okay, but sorry, Councilmember.
Just jump in with one question. So is that in addition to the building that's there, Chief, or is that tearing that down, adding a whole new structure?
Yeah, the current Station 71 is an old brick building that's been there probably since the 50s or 60s. Definitely not applicable and can't live in it. So yeah, it would be a complete new facility. It would be, both a two bay station with the ability for 2 to maybe 4 pieces of equipment max, meaning a utility, an ambulance, rescue, and an engine, and then sleeping facilities for the staff. Just real quick, Mayor, on the difference on engines is, you have a Type 1, and the Type 1 that I prefer is about 650,000. The recent one that Lakeport purchased was 800,000. So it's really, we spec out the type of engines that fit in our community. So if you look at the Lakeport engine, length, width, and capabilities are a lot different. If you see our newer engines are shorter because of our maneuverability and getting around. So the figures is based on what type of engine you build. You can build a Type 1 anywhere from 650 to 2.5 million. depends upon how you want it equipped. And we don't support the longer length because of the angle of approach and departure in a lot of our roads. So I think that's kind of where the difference, the $250,000 between 400,000 and that 650.
Get
But-
that same thing on the ladder when you get a chance.
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
I mean, so for a ladder, you know, they're reaching about $2 million right now. You can get you know, depending upon who the manufacturers are. And so they're definitely not cheap. And our history has been looking at surplus, which we've bought surplus, and we refurbed 2 of them over the past couple of years to a savings of the district of well over $1.5 million. The first one was 345,000. That was in pretty good shape. A couple things to it. The OES engine we bought for 40,000 dropped 65 into it. That's a new station or engine 6511 for Lower Lake. And based upon that call volume, that's going to be a good 10, hopefully 15-year engine. You know, so we aren't going to look at, because even with this passing and us having those funds, it's not going to be nearly enough to buy the things we need. And we got an AFG grant, Assistance to Firefighters grant, that bought a water tender, $486,000 water tender. So we are looking continuously how to maintain and continue the growth of the department to match the city and the district. And this is a small portion of that. It's not going to stop us from looking at those one-time offers, but those grants aren't sustainable. I mean, you know, once they get rid of the safer grants and the AFG grants, you know, all that is going to come to a standstill.
So is that ladder truck going to be new, or you're going to be looking for something out there?
I'll be looking for something used. You know, and that's the whole thing is that for my department is that our type 2, our wildland engines are more active than anything.
Yeah.
Because we run them in the wintertime because of some of the road conditions, we can't run a type 1. So our type 2 wildland, so your type 1 is primarily structure, your type 2 is a wildland, type 3 is kind of that wildland urban interface, and then our type 6s are like an F550 chassis that we have one of those as well. So our type 2 or type 2-3 combo has got to be a new one because it's got a lot. I mean, our last one was a 2014 and she's got a ton of miles on her. So our 2-3s are always going to be a new replacement. The ladder, it's not going to get as much use. So am I going to look at spending $2 million?
Twice during my time on the board.
Well, I'm just, you know, we are going to look for a used one because there's not the need to spend that expenditure. But the cost of an aerial ladder is substantial. You know, just the turntable, every 10 hours you have maintenance on the turntable and annual testing on the ladders, and a lot of safety things. So there's a huge maintenance and ongoing cost with that ladder. So when you buy a used one, you don't have that 1 or 2 year warranty. So I hope I answer your questions.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have one question. The, you know, Sacramento is really pushing for ADUs, and now there's another one, EDU, enclosed or something. Is that you know, charge for ADUs? Is that from Sacramento, or is that?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It looks
Sure.
like it might.
So the current law prohibits charging impact fees, mitigation fees on accessory dwelling units. So you cannot do this. This is
So
the state law.
there's a new one coming that is enclosed under the main roof. It's a separate living
Mm-hmm.
unit. I mean, the county was talking about, I think, I'm not sure if they call it
So-
an EDU or something. It says,
Once it's put into law, then we'll know
I
what
believe it's
what we have
already
to
is.
work with.
I
So
believe
right
it
now,
already is.
okay, I haven't.
So
gone-
would you charge for that? So you couldn't charge for that either, right?
So the district will not do anything that is prohibited by the law.
Okay, well, yeah, it wouldn't.
If it's okay with everyone, let's take a 5-minute break. I know you've been on your feet for a bit, and I appreciate that. I know some council members need a moment as well. So we'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll return at 7:52. All right, we're gonna come back to order here. Let's, I know I've talked a lot as well. Let me open it up to the council for additional questions at this point. Vice Mayor Overton.
Yes, okay, so I do have a couple of questions on how this comes about. Because this is, like 100% more than, what people are used to paying, or more on some of it. If we do a nexus every 8 years, I guess my question is how come this has never been brought forward and rates raised on a consistent basis?
I can lead some of that.
Yes.
Excuse me. So we didn't realize that this nexus study really had to be brought to fruition. And, I take ownership when I took over from the last administration that had been there for a long time. None of this stuff was ever passed on.
Okay.
And when we look at how we paralleled and stuff with the county, really nobody discussed it. And it wasn't until recently. And like I said before, when we look at doing rate increases, we do it on a series of trends that were in trouble. So, and I just want to real quick hit on Measure D. We identified in trending, if we kept going the way we were going, we're lay people off. So we came up with a Measure D that was going to sustain what we have and do a little bit extra for the community, and that was staffing Lower Lake and getting that ISO rating down. So as we looked at that, well, we haven't done that, our mitigation fees haven't increased, is we trained it back and looked and it's like, oh, it hasn't been done in 30 years. So that I own that as a fire chief, but I also wasn't aware of that from the previous administration, so yeah.
So there hasn't been a nexus study since 93?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that.
But didn't you just say that it's a law to have one every 8 years?
Right, but none of the fire districts have done them in 30 years, and we all own that. Mike owns it, Pat owns it, Joe.
So there's no penalty for not doing it. I mean, I'm just kind of surprised that if it's something that's required.
And
for
when
8
was the
years.
law enacted
Yeah.
to do the nexus study? How long ago?
I'll hit him. What was a law?
I started doing nexus studies in 2002. That was the first time I did a nexus study. I'm not sure, it might have been after the fee was put in place. So the original fee did not have a nexus study.
That was just, here it is. This is, we're just
Well,
gonna step.
there was a description of what's in the plan. Or, what type of facilities the district has. But there was really no methodology that like tied the facilities to the fee. It was like sort of, this is the.
Okay. So,
And I think at that time, that was fine. But then the Mitigation Fee Act evolved. It has had so many iterations. So the nexus study requirement most likely has been added since then. I can't speak to that. That's
right. Yeah, just when you come through, and I'm sure other people are questioning this, when we're going from $1 and you're asking for, almost double a plus, 140%, 93% on these here, it just kind of makes me look like, well, why is this like not have come forward? And I'm sure other people will have that question too.
It's that none of our previous administrations, clear back to, bless his soul, Chief Don Parker, to Chief Ford Denman, to Chief McMurray, and then passed on to me. So it's something that's never got passed on. And it's my stupid not going, hey, because we are responsible for knowing. But what we did when we found out it was needed, we did, and we're very transparent. And it's not like we're really trying to catch up 30 years because we're not going 143%. We're going about 99.3%, and those numbers, I get it. They sound staggering, and they're going to be an impact on, what that growth is going to be. But for us to succeed and to grow with the city, that's what we project just to help us get and maintain a continuity of service.
So, and then I have one more question. So my second question is, you said most of your stuff is medical, not fire. Is there a reason why you can't put, instead of putting a whole fire department somewhere, is there a reason why we can't build a smaller thing and put just a medical where you have your ambulances and stuff there instead of everything there?
The critical time is depends upon the dispatch. My personnel are staffed, so that ambulance is running a medical aid 1 minute, and then those folks are jumping on the engine to get to that fully involved structure with entrapment.
Okay, so they're doing both.
Yeah, we cross staff everything. Okay. So when you see us go on a fire with 2 medic units and an engine, then all of a sudden we break a medical 2 engine or 2 medics lead. It'll lose 1 or 2 people on the fire ground other than volunteers and our mutual aid partners from the other chiefs. So you have to have those pieces of equipment because, and then if you look at our Lower Lake station, we have a type 1, a type 2, water tender, and a type 6 engine. Our goal is to put a medic unit down there eventually, but those stations have to have the equipment for the cross staffing.
Well, I appreciate the Lower Lake one because I think that needed to happen and I'm glad that was staff, but yeah, I was just curious about like, because we all see where there's a fireman and ambulances and everything all going to the same spot and we always, I think everybody wonders why is it so many people in it when if it's a fire, it's a fire, if it's an ambulance, then I would expect an ambulance and not a fire department to go.
Because our staffing is, we have 6 people on 24 hours a day, so, and I have 1 person on my engine here, I have 1 person on my engine in Lower Lake, and then we have 4 people on the medic units, advanced life support. And then for our Lower Lake community, that's a firefighter 2 or a fire apparatus engineer / paramedic. So they can do everything a paramedic can do. And that type 6 engine is equipped with everything but the ability to transport. They have a monitor, they have a drug box, they have a mechanical CPR device, and they can run a code for 10 or 15 minutes waiting for a transport unit to get there.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you for that information.
Any other questions from council?
I just have a quick
Councilmember
comment.
Sloat?
I quickly looked up, but if you had $1.95, that's worth today $1.92. So you're pretty right on. You're just catching up on inflation.
But we also had to look at what is,
There are
we
more.
don't want to stifle growth.
No, I have no problem in a rate increase. That's not
Yeah, that's not.
what we're concerned about as a council. Maybe it's just my opinion, but we just want to see how it can be, justified kind of thing. So that's all.
Councilmember Purdock.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for this. Thank you for your presentation. It's very insightful, took in a lot of information. We own some of that too. And the reason why this mitigation fee hasn't been moved forward, maybe as promptly as it was, since it does sit with us. I want to thank you again for that. And also I see us working hand in hand and, as our city grows, and I definitely want to see our public to be safe, any of our visitors to the city be safe, and have your, station staffed with the equipment and personnel that they need. Chief, thank you for coming up and sharing that information with us. I think your city should be proud of you and your station for looking at what you could do to be a good partner in the community and in the community's growth. These days, it doesn't seem like many take the opportunity to reduce fees when they are looking at what it might do to stifle that growth. And I think we have the same position here. I appreciate Councilmember Slotin's comments in regard to that. We're growing. We've been wanting to grow for a while. It's finally happening. We're getting some good press on the good things that are happening here in Clear Lake. And we need to be prepared for that. And we need to be ready for that growth. So again, thank you for your presentation.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, Councilmember Purdock, pretty much agree with all he said. I also want to thank you, Dimitri, for your presentation and your ability to stand up there and talk as long as you did. He talks much slower and he doesn't use acronyms. Boom.
That's a dig. That's a dig. I mean,
Chief,
But you have to use acronyms. You need to give us a sheet.
and Chief, appreciate your comments. I think you actually lent some clarity to me in understanding what's happening up there, and really, I do believe there's a lot of art involved, but I do feel a lot better about the information we now have from all of you. I, of course, was involved in that Measure D from the other side, helping out with this passing. And I know I asked you about at our workshop about, what about the money from Measure D? I do feel I have a lot better understanding of that now as well. And I really appreciate it that it opened Lower Lake. Going forward, I think your study had $1.5 million in for that ladder truck, by the way, in your numbers crunching. So that would not be a new one. Anyhow, I do thank you all for your presentations, Chief. I love kidding you about your talking fast, but you're a walking encyclopedia when it comes to fire science. No, appreciate what you do. Thanks.
Councilmember Purdock.
One last comment, and Chief, you were very politically correct. I am sometimes not. What this did is it opened my eyes to some of the other mitigation fees that other entities are charging. And quite frankly, I'm appalled. Because that is going to stifle growth. So I will be looking into some of those and at least talking with board members and other districts. Because I think it's woefully expensive and not in the best interests of our community as we try to grow and build out good, positive things in our community. So that's one of the things I took away from this.
Well, one of the things that, Supervisor Sabatier kind of brought to my attention, is to get all of us to have fee schedules and sit us all down in a room and look at the validation of what we're charging. And is there room for, I know the county reduced theirs from 3 to a 2.6. But you're correct. There are some agencies that, were able to get those fees, and now it impacts those of us that are trailing behind just to catch up. So they're a little bit more on the curve, but I do think it'd be a good opportunity for all of the fee schedules to be brought to in a meeting and discuss and validate and reorganize them. I think it'd be great. I'd love to be part of it.
Absolutely support that. I'll do what I can to bring that to fruition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Overton.
So, and I feel like this is a lot our fault too, because we should be we're responsible for these fees. So one of the things I'd like to see is that that these fees are run through the city, and the city is a pass through, goes to you, you still get it. But that also keeps us aware of what's going on, and we can stay on top of maybe every year checking in and seeing and having this approved on a yearly basis through our normal fee process that we do every year with our budget, so that this is never missed again. Because I think that's where I think everybody failed on this of fees, and now we're doing this. Seems like we need to do a big raise here, which when you start looking at this and it's when you're doing this, I mean $1.93 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you add it all up, it's a lot. So yeah. So I mean, and it's like we're already having a hard time getting just getting people. I mean, we even put in a process where we're trying to help people pay for these fees through a grant program. So I have a hard time. I personally have a hard time. And not that I say you don't need to have a raise, but I think we might want to look at this and say, is there a way we could stagger this a little bit and maybe this year be a little lower, next year raise it, and raise it on a more steady basis with our budget as it, and do it with our budget and our fee updates. That's my suggestion.
Okay, well, any other questions of these two? And then I'm going to give them a bit of a break and we'll do public comment. No? Gentlemen, you have a moment of a rest here, but there will be more questions coming. All right. At this point, we'll open up public comment. If you have a comment, please come forward to the mic here in the chamber. State your name and your city of residence.
Again, my name's Ralph Volpe, and we live here in Clear Lake. It was a wonderful presentation, a lot of information provided, and some terms that were a little confusing. Development. We weren't quite sure whether we're talking about what is developed already or whether we're only talking about new development within the city as the city grows. The mitigation fees, would they be applied strictly to new buildings? Would they, or would it also impact existing families, let's say, that require building permits for changes or improvements on their properties? And if so, would it only be for the square footage of the improvement, or could it also trigger a reevaluation of the entire property?
I think you're asking 2 or 3 different.
You're asking a bunch of questions here. So the study did take in both existing and potential development. So
Say that again, please.
It takes into account both existing development, and it gathered a series of projections on future development based on research by Mr. Semenoff's firm. the impact fee, the mitigation fee, right now, as I understand it, is only for new builds. So new construction that is either residential or non-residential. It covers everything and it's broken up by square foot. Building permits, there's no,
Well, yeah, it depends. So, if you add a bedroom onto your house, you would have to pay for the additional square footage that's covered. If you add a garage to your property, you would have to pay the additional square footage. You wouldn't pay for the existing, it's basically covered.
If you were replacing a garage?
If
But
you're
the
adding a
square
new
footage-
one, you would have to pay for that.
Okay, if you're taking one down and putting a new one up.
Yeah, I believe now you get credit for,
For
the
existing
covered
space.
space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
But the revaluation you're talking about would be the county assessor.
Okay,
That has nothing to do with us.
all right. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Any other questions or comments here in the chamber? Yes.
That's a long walk. My name is Mary Benson, and although I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the the Lake County Fire Protection District, I'm speaking strictly as an individual today. And I was struck by the use of the term art in the discussion tonight. And it reminds me of how every time someone gets a bank loan, they have to get an appraisal, and the appraiser comes up with an exact value of that house. And yet appraisers tell me that they can swing the value on any house 15% in either direction on any day, depending on their mood or how they want it to come out, or depending on what the contract says. And you have to rely on their deep expertise and their experience, their being in the trenches every day, looking at properties every day. And I think that's analogous to what we have here with Dimitri, who does this all the time for his job, and the fire chief. He's in there in the trenches. And as in my day job, we get encouraged to stay in our lane and to, even though I attend several home inspections a month, I'm not qualified to say whether a roof needs replacing. I can't do that. And so I would encourage you to trust in the expertise of the people who developed this report today. And when you call 911, you expect somebody to arrive and you expect them to have the right equipment. And I just want you to not be a victim of your own success, because Mr. Flora and his team have done a commendable job on bringing new development in, but we do need the infrastructure to support that. And we want, when you call 911, somebody responds and they've got the right equipment, because without that, people will die and properties will be lost to fire unnecessarily. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments here in the chamber? Hearing none or seeing none, Madam Clerk, any messages or comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on Zoom.
All right, I'll bring it back to the council, and I believe I have to close the public hearing. Okay, so I'm now officially closing the public hearing. And I'll bring it back to council for deliberation. And Mr. Semenov, that was your break. Come on back up. So,
At your service.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I wanted you here because this is your lane, is to talk about the methodology. You outlined 3 different methodologies in the report, one being the capacity-based, one also being the standard-based. And I looked at some other communities, Sonoma County, Sacramento. A lot of communities use this approach to it. I also looked at a community around our size, Churchilla. And to give everyone a bit of a background, the standard base looks at existing development and then, as it's my understanding, allocates a certain cost based on that alone. It doesn't factor in the projected development piece of it. So I took the equations from Chowchilla, and if you'll give me a moment here, coupled it with the great data that you've provided. So, looking at the total cost of existing stations, vehicles, apparatus, you outlined 17.6 million. That would break down to about $4,256 cost per service call. And then using the data you provided on the allocation of residential to non-residential. I came up with numbers that are 88 cents for residential and 206 for non-residential. And I did this as an exercise to try to estimate what the current capacity is, since there's a lot of, as we talked about, art in the current capacity numbers. This here, to me, suggests that there is a lot of ground trying to be covered with this proposed impact fee in the assessment of new planned facilities and equipment that could potentially be brought online. Do I at least have a general understanding of this methodology?
Right, so if I understand correctly, you took the existing system.
So I copied the Chowchilla model, which your firm didn't do, but I would imagine a reputable firm did as well. That took the existing audit of the district's equipment, apparatus, and vehicles. It broke it down by cost per call.
Okay.
So in DC2, I named the tables after myself because I was having fun in Excel. And then once we had that cost per service, we used the calls by each land use, the existing square footage for that land use, created a cost per square foot, and then applied that to the fee here. And I'm happy to talk through the math. But
Okay, no, it makes sense, yeah.
okay. So looking at these numbers, is it fair to say that that is the current investment that the district has in equipment, facilities, and apparatus, and that if there was no forward-looking, if someone were to build a house yesterday, the appropriate fee would be 88 cents and 206?
Yes and no. One thing that's missing from the top line, the cost basis, is we've made some assumptions about what it costs to finance the engines and ambulances that have gotten really, really expensive. An ambulance is running $350,000. The engine, you know, we heard the numbers. It's very rare that an agency now is able to afford to just pay cash for an engine or an ambulance. More and more agencies are now having to finance at least a portion of the acquisition. So if you look at in our calculation, if you look at the planned facility costs, there is a financing section. So the district is projecting that going forward, they will have to fund approximately half of their apparatus with financing. So there is some additional costs that will have to be added to incorporate the interest and some financing fees.
Okay, that's fair.
In general, this methodology is okay. What it doesn't take into consideration is the planned facilities. The current system is, bless you. The current system does not seem to be adequate to serve future growth.
Adequate to serve existing development?
I would let the chief speak to that, but some of the additional facilities would definitely improve the service to the existing development.
But improve the service is not, we all want that, of course. And I think the projected build out that has been included in this is a great vision for the district. I just want to get back to, is it the appropriate amount to cover expansion? And I haven't gotten those figures yet. And even if we go 15% in one direction, as one resident suggested, I still don't even have that central amount. This is not a 15% increase. This is saying for 8% growth in the community, the fire district has to double it in size and value.
So a big chunk, if you look at the additional projections, right? What are some of the things that are needed? Large percentage of that is firehouse. A large percentage of that is the aerial ladder truck. If no additional need for expansion of facilities was there, then this calculation takes the current facility costs and allocates across this existing development. Yes, this was a good approach.
Okay, thank you. We're in the deliberative phase, so Vice Mayor. Over.
So let's take our facility and our growth. And this is why I say I think this needs to be done in stages, because we all know that, this next year is not going to all of a sudden be a, huge building that we need a ladder for. And this is the reason why I think that the stage, every year come back and look and allocate so much instead of just bam, this whole amount, is because right now we have existing things. It's all been allocated for that. They've already paid their fees. And so I say, give them a raise, but not to the point that we're going full blown on something that we don't even know what the future is going to bring. Every year, if we reevaluate it and with our fee structures, then we will know, we have an idea what's going to be built that year and whether it's going to impact the station or not, because people put in for permits and we have an idea of how many projects are going to be and development's going to happen. So to me, this needs to be done on a stage basis. Thank you.
Councilmember Purdock. Oh, sorry. Councilmember Purdock, do you have a comment?
Yeah, my only comment is, we're 30 years behind, but we need to start looking at what we need to provide for our current community needs. And we have several 3-story and large buildings, including a Walmart and other things. That do we have, and not, this is anyway, hypothetical question. Do we have the infrastructure, the apparatus to deal with those? And I think we're behind.
Microphone, please. So,
okay, yeah, but it's not a matter of whether you are going to use it. It's a matter of if you need it, it's available.
So there's a proposed surcharge to layer that on top of this for high impact projects. Would that, you talked about the ladder, would that be something you'd consider?
Yes. We're also looking at the development that we've made public not that long ago with a very large medical facility at the airport property. Do we have the equipment and apparatus once that opens? Should there be a structure fire in that location? I think it's our responsibility to work hand in glove with the fire department to see that they do.
Yeah, but this is why I'm saying the stage, because that particular project's 10 years down the line before it's completed.
5
So,
maybe.
yeah, we'll see. Might be 5 years in the plan, but it'll be 10 years before they're going to need a fire truck for it.
Well, and you
So-
may be right, but if it's 5 years, we're behind.
So, but we can't look at what, because they didn't have the fees before, because that's not really fair. It's that we have to look at what the development is, and we have to look at that we are, no offense, we're a low income area here, and I'm like Lakeport, I don't want to deter building here. And if we do it year by year, we kind of know how things are flowing. And if we see at some point, okay, we do need to jump it up more, we can always do that. That's why the fee structure and having it come back to the council is, to me, and do it with our fees is better. Sure.
Councilman Purdock?
I don't necessarily disagree, council member, but I think what they're asking for is reasonable. As I mentioned in my remarks previously, I think we've got some districts, and I'm looking at over $4 a square foot they're currently charging. They didn't come to us. They didn't make us aware. I believe it was something that was allocated by the state, and we just have to accept. I don't agree with that. Thank you, Chief, for maybe putting us all around a table so we can talk about those. But again, I feel that we're in a catch-up mode to get our stations and our equipment and our personnel to where I think they're going to need to be in 5 years. Thank you.
Councilmember Kramer?
Yeah, while you were talking about the methodology of the city, I looked at the city of Chowchilla. They had two prisons come in between 1990 and like 2010, they had tremendous growth. They went from 5,900 to 18,000. Since 2010 to 2020, they've added about 300 people, 1.7% growth. So I'm wondering whether, methodology aside, whether the city of Chowchilla, although it's a similar size to the city of Clear Lake, I don't think it's the growth rate that they're projecting is nowhere near what I think we're projecting. And I agree with
No, that's fair.
member Purdock on that.
The equation and the data supplied was all provided by the study. So it's just a similar equation, not necessarily.
Well, but the equation, but still, it's based on a lot less growth. Anyway.
May I add something? As you were deliberating, I looked up the study, and there's one piece of information that is missing in the formulas is the current station 73 is slated for rebuild. And we zeroed out the value for that as a structure in our existing calculations. So in the Nexus study in table 8, for station 73, there is a 0 in terms of the building value.
Is 7-3 Pinedale?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what would be the estimated value of that?
So the construction cost to rebuild the station is 2.7 million.
What's the existing value though?
I'm not sure about that information. I don't have.
25,000?
Not even, I mean, we're talking the building that was put up probably in the 50s or 60s. There's some shady wire that, not shady, trust me. But again, it's got a couple of outlets and this is storage facility, empty apparatus.
Gotcha.
But the building's not falling down, is that correct?
No, it's not.
Okay. As I say, those buildings will last, 200 years, so it needs updated.
It would never pass code. The foundation or the structure would never pass any type of code nowadays, I mean, the accessory garage.
Okay, all right.
So I guess I don't understand what we're missing here. If it's a slab essentially, how would you factor that in?
If in looking at existing inventory of facilities, right, you have to understand that if something needs to be brought up to code, or needs to be rebuilt, that needs to be added to the calculation.
How long has it been in this condition?
30 years. The fire department acquired it back somewhere in the early to mid 70s. They acquired that one, as well as our 70 or 100-year lease at the airport that was turned over to the city. So those buildings were just acquired probably, well, I probably was born, but I probably, we're talking 70s.
What value cost? What value does that structure has to you?
Well, right now it has a lot of ideas and houses and equipment that's not going to be sitting out getting weather conditions, so it does store fire apparatus. And we can put a reserve unit. Sometimes there's a reserve engine that might be out there during the summertime during peak seasons when we do have Yeah, all our stations are usable facilities, but it really is dependent upon the personnel that we have living around there or accessibility to it. And that's why I'm talking 15, 20 years. When that area of the peninsula grows, yeah, we may have a need for, and that's going to be at the very far edges because guaranteed rolling code 3 has a true structure fire Christmas Eve several years ago. It took me a while to get to rolling from the main station. Picture would have had a station out of Pinedale. It would have cut that probably in a quarter, so we don't have quick response times. We have a very fragmented district we have to cover. And so as the chief looking at what is going to be the best fit, is where's that growth going to be and what's going to reduce that time for medical and the structure fire.
Growth is probably not going to happen there.
Hey, never know.
Where's the boundary for SRA?
The boundary for SRA is everything on the east side of Highway 53 and it dog legs over around the Burns Valley and comes out down in their country club. And then everything on the lakeside is ours, and part of it goes up across what they call the tri-levels off of Country Club. And then most of that is SRA back there. But you gotta remember that you have
State responsibility.
Yeah, I was gonna hit that. So you have LRA, local responsibility area. You have SRA, that's.
I knew what it was, though.
A state responsibility, and then FRA is federal responsibility areas. The only thing is that even though it's SRA, your local fire department has responsibility of the structure and life property. So we don't have any responsibility for the wildland other than if we don't stop the wildland, we're gonna lose homes. And it's vice versa for the state agencies. If they don't help us put the house out, they're gonna lose all the wildland. So even though you do have SRA, you have these boundaries that come close together, we call those mutual threat zones, MTZs. You know, so even though that is all wildland, if you look at Kelseyville, the entire Riviera is SRA. But Joe has responsibility for every single structure and every single life there. But I wanted to answer real quick if I could on the ladder truck. So there again, I inherited that ladder truck. It was purchased not to fit our community. It was a good deal. Maintenance was impossible. It was a 2001 American LaFrance that isn't manufactured anymore. It was continuous problems. It was $4,000 to get a radiator put in it. After every 10 hours, you had to retorque about 300 bolts on the turntable. A lot of work, a lot of effort. And we did use it on the YZs, both fires. So it was deployed several times, but the maneuverability of that in the city was not conducive. And so when we look at a new one, it's similar to the cab chassis frame that Lakeport runs. Smaller frame, more maneuverable to what we need. So we did sell it because it was costing us more because you say we don't use it very often. But to your point, that one time you need it, and it's your family member, that's pretty critical. And the ladder is not just for the fighting fires, but we use it for aerial rescue as far as getting somebody out the side of the canyon, over the side of the embankment. A lot of those things, it's pretty much unstoppable what you can do with one of those. But more to the point, we talk about the growth impact. So if you read our report, my department alone runs 5,773 calls. We are a call away from if I didn't have my brothers helping me in the other departments, we would fail a lot of calls. We're at our breaking point right now. 16 calls every 24 hours my crew run. In 2023, we ran a cardiac arrest call every 5 days. Today, we had 2 cardiac arrest calls and a total of 3 1144s. And it's not uncommon to have 20 calls in by 8 o'clock at night. So we are surviving, but we're behind the times. I do need another ambulance. I do need another heart monitor. I just ordered a heart monitor. Misha can attest, $59,000 for a heart monitor that I have to replace in 7 years.
Okay.
So we are at a breaking point.
Thank you both. I think at this point,
18 calls today, by the way, so far.
thank you both. Appreciate you fielding our questions and giving your perspective. Let's focus in as a council. What are we looking to do here? Is that
Do we have to first reading? Is the first reading of the ordinance?
Right,
Yes.
right. So in this ordinance is for the fees schedule or?
Well, it just moves the fees from being set by ordinance to set by resolution. So you can still deliberate on what kind of fees you want for next meeting. You just be giving staff direction on what that is.
I
But
think
really,
it should be on
that's-
our fee schedule so that, every year, well, let's just say we all of a sudden get in a boom and we need to raise it. It gives them the opportunity to raise it also. It's not like we're just going to say, here it is, but if everything's going good and the fee schedule's good, then we can just approve the fee schedule. But if we see that this fee schedule is no longer working because we had a big growth and we feel like this needs to be raised, it gives us the opportunity to raise it without having to go through this whole thing all over again. It just gives the council an opportunity where they can come and say, this is what's happening. We need 20 cents more a square foot and we can just do it, without having to go through this whole ordeal of raising the, public hearing and all that stuff. I think it's just a smarter way a faster process to get things, done and raised and keeping an eye on it. And we won't lose track of what needs to happen for our community. So I think we do need to go to just having it onto the fees, on our schedule and just approving it every year as it goes. So.
This is saying is to get done by resolution. If that resolution takes the form of a fee schedule or separate, it's really up to the council.
That gets decided next meeting. Anyway.
Correct.
The dollar amount will be decided
Next meeting.
Well, it would be nice if we had some direction to generate a resolution. I mean, we don't
We
have
want it
to,
on the
but-
fee schedule, basically. Wouldn't that be in the resolution?
What number?
Well, using what we were provided, the rate provided.
So, well, the resolution is going to be to put it on the fee schedule, correct? I mean, if that's what we want, and then we would decide what the fee is at that time.
Well,
They put up a recommended fee schedule. Why don't we just go with that for now?
Well, I'll chime in there. I'm very sensitive to the single family home impact fee. And I think leaving out multifamily, including multifamily would certainly drop that rate. It's projected within their study. I think Mr. Semenov suggested that it's about 25% higher. So if we have an allocation factor of 1.25 there.
Starting from $1.93 and then allocating between multifamily and single family? Is
Well,
that
so
you're
what they've lumped residential, multifamily into residential. So if we have a 1.25 allocation fee, that would bring down the burden on residential. It would bring down the cost on
I
residential.
get that. So instead of 193 across the board, it would be something less for single family and something more for medical or multi.
I have a hard time with the single family thing too, because I want to see single family homes. I mean, I don't want to see more apartments really built. I want to see people owning homes here. That's what I think that's what our goal is, you know, and if we make it to where they can't afford to purchase, then it's already high. So.
And the benefit of doing this as well is that it doesn't take away from the overall revenue. The way the calculation is based, it just diverts some of the revenue from single family to multifamily. Did you have a
Which we
comment?
seem to have more being built of
Come on up.
multifamilies. Multifamilies seem to be being built more than single families right now.
Thank you. Our multifamily structures is only 4%, so that would end up hitting us really harder than where we're going with this. But in the ordinance, we had some questions because we didn't have and weren't notified that the draft was done, and so we didn't have a chance to review it. And then there's a talk about a resolution 2024-14 that we have no idea. The current ordinance provides a lot of leniency, but it doesn't give the fire district any authority. So if I can pass out some of the stuff that we've done, just a little bit of food for that.
Yes, please do.
It kind of discusses some of the stuff in the staff report and some concerns we have in the ordinance and some of the supporting documents. So we had hoped to, before the ordinance came out, we would have the opportunity to sit and discuss it. And then definitely in regards to the resolution.
To our finance officer.
24-14, we have no idea what that looks like, and we need to make sure that in the Nexus study, and my board, who speaks for the community as their own governing body, agreed to the content of that. And you know, I was hoping we would have had a discussion on the ordinance and the resolution before we came to the first hearing. And I did make some requests to see what that draft was. And then I did find it online yesterday. And I attempted to call you, and Alan and I had a discussion because it would have been nice to have the opportunity to discuss the components of that draft ordinance. And then as it talks about a resolution, I have no idea what that resolution says. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, everyone's reading, so come on up, Chief.
So You know, so in here, we do talk about, the district sets the fees and, it's our fees. And then we're asking you to, take and accept our resolution based upon the fire district and our needs and our nexus study that has been approved by our board. And it not be a city resolution it'd be a city resolution, but with our input, and it'd be pretty much our document identifying and validating those fees and the structures that have been established instead of an overall just fee schedule.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any other deliberation on this, Vice Mayor? Over to-
So we can talk more about this at the next meeting, correct?
Well,
Or-
You can talk about it the next 6 meetings if you like.
No, no.
But it's, to me, it looked like that we have a conflict here.
Right.
What the existing law is now.
Yeah.
I continue to think there's still a general misunderstanding about our process and. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I want to make it very clear, we're the responsible people. Is that not correct? We're the responsible people for these
100%.
mitigation fees. So, and that's why I said it's our fault that this didn't get caught, because we should have been aware of it too. So I'm not agreeing that, I do think it needs to be just on our fee schedule. That's the reason why I say it should be on our fee schedule. That gives you the opportunity to submit if you think it needs to be raised, and us to talk about it and make those decisions. But it is our fees, it's our responsibility. I think it should be gone through the city and as it is, and stay that way, and just be put on our fee schedule so that we can do this every year and just make sure that it stays on track.
I agree.
And I would concur with that as well. So,
Get your money. It's not that you're not going to get your money. So-
so in terms of action at this point, Mr. Jones,
Yeah, what's before the only thing before the council is to have the first reading of the ordinance, which would adopt a resolution. There is no resolution on the table yet. It can't become really, you can't even adopt a resolution yet because you need an ordinance to first be switched to allow that to be the case. So it would definitely be anything about fee setting would have to occur at a future meeting.
understood. All right, then. I think we're at the point now where let's move forward here. Do we have any action on this then? Or any more additional comment?
Yeah, but I so move for the resolution number 2025-15, supporting the applicant. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Sorry.
You need to turn your
mic
mic
on.
on,
Oh, okay.
It's on.
speak into us.
Throat's getting
Not
kind of
hearing
sore,
you.
that's all. So let me find the resolution now. Do we have a resolution? I mean, yeah, the ordinance.
There you go.
Yep.
Nope, that's not it.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mr. Purdo.
I'd like to make a motion that we hold the first reading of the ordinance number 269-2024, read it by title only, and waive a further reading and set the second reading and adoption for the April 4th meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Purdock and a second from Councilmember Slutin. Please vote in your portal.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you for everyone in attendance. I know this was a long meeting for just the first step in this process, but I think a lot of great information was shared and it will help us set the path moving forward. So I appreciate all your time and the information.
Mr. Mayor, can I, so it sounds like we have a majority of the council that wants to include this in our fee resolution, so we can I mean, Chief Cepeda keeps talking about, we aren't sharing the resolution. Well, that's because we haven't drafted one yet because we don't know what we're supposed to put in it. So it sounds like that will be part of it. We haven't gotten clear direction on what the fee amount will be. So I'm just making that clear. We can bring something back, but there's gonna have to be additional discussion. I mean, I heard some comments about lower. I heard some comments about include, what the fire district has approved. But there doesn't seem to be clear direction there. So, we don't have to discuss it now. I just want, so everyone in the room is clear that, that's still gonna have to be flushed out a little bit, it appears.
Understood.
I think the general consensus is that we do want a multifamily component to this schedule. Am I reading that right?
I would like to go, after looking at all the evidence, I think that the fees, the 193 and the 2, whatever it was, and then split that 193, allocate it between single family and multifamily, I would be okay with that.
So I think, let me clarify what I think we're on the same page, but it would be using Mr. Semenov's equation, giving an allocation factor of 1 to residential, 1.25 to multifamily, 1.25 to non-residential, and not touching any other part of the equation, which would then lower the fee for single. There's a downfall effect.
Is this kind of the number?
Now, the 241 for non-residential plus the 50 cent for the large footprint.
So that would be an additional question. So I was just talking about the fee itself. There's still the surcharge
as well.
Yeah, so that what I just said doesn't involve the surcharge.
Is that clear or mud or?
Well, it's pretty
Three
muddy, but
pages
we
now.
can certainly come up with a,
Sift it out.
and you can argue about it again next time.
And give it some figures and see what it comes out to be. So
Sounds
maybe
good.
we change
Roughly,
our.
if it's 25 less and 25 more, you're talking $1.75 for residential, maybe $2.25 for multi and $2.45
He's already figured it out for you.
for commercial or non-residential.
And that's
Approximately.
I think it makes a little bit of sense, even though if you look at the last couple of projects in town, they've been all mainly. all
We
in
have
town.
another, and we have more coming.
So we have more coming in. Yeah, on 18th.
Mhm. And I'm sure we'll have more than that one.
Yeah, road, so.
See more single family.
Yeah, but
all right. If there's no additional comment, we're going to move on to item K.
Yeah, no more comments from us.
Too late, Willie. We're gonna discuss it next time too.
Where we are on the existing order, the only reason I addressed the resolution. You need to come to the microphone, you're gonna talk.
The only reason I brought up the resolution is it's written in part of the ordinance. And I'm confused on the ordinance. Is it gonna have anywhere of the fire district's resolution opposed to the city's resolution? That was my only question I'm confused on.
Mr. Fleur, if you could clarify, but I believe it's, or Mr. Jones?
I mean, I think, it's would be based on our resolution. I mean, if the council wanted to reference the fire district's resolution there, you could.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the nexus study would be referenced because there has to be, some
A
nexus
basis.
for the establishment of the higher fees.
So at this point, Chief, it would be the city's resolution referencing the district's resolution. Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to item K, city manager and council members report. Mr. Fleur.
Okay, a few items. So, talking about single family development, the Danco subdivision, 29 acres. I talked to the developer last week and, so you'll recall we opened escrow on that. That's still city property and it was the escrow period was based on completing the entitlements for that, which, are now done. All the appeal periods are passed. And so, within the next 30 days, we'll be closing on that, receiving the rest of the payment from the developer, and they plan on starting construction later this year. We're in the very final stages of our road projects for this year as far as the design. We're trying to put all the projects out together in order to get more savings overall. And so one of the projects has been done for a few weeks. Other two, I'm told, should be done by the end of the month, and then we could put those out to bid. So I guess the one caveat to those, so we have 4 projects that are in design: Burns Valley and Arrowhead. Because of some federal funding, there could be some delays on that because of tribal consultation. So we'll see. We may not be able to get that project done this year, but
Tribal anymore?
I wish we could just go to the same consortium that has the tribal health going here.
well, it's not our project. Canoctown Water District is will be moving forward soon on the Dam Road water line upgrade and the intertie down that area. Said their pre-construction meeting last week. And of course, city's engaged on that, and that'll be a good project to get going. We did submit our requests for earmarks last Friday based on the council's direction, so we'll wait and see what type of response we get from Congressman Thompson and the subcommittee on that. One bit of unfortunate news related to a grant. We had applied for Reconnecting Communities grant to do a number of intersection improvements along Highway 53. We have continually almost just pedestrian and vehicle issues there, and it's not our road, it's Caltrans's road, but this is a way for us to try and make something happen there. So it wasn't real well defined on how much we could ask for, but the projects we put in would have totaled about 25 million. It would have included a pedestrian overcrossing. So we were not successful in getting those funds. They only awarded 3 of those grants statewide. One in they had a rural category, they had I think a commuter category, and then an urban category. So City of Arcata was the successful jurisdiction on that, and they did have a compelling case because of the university and everything that's separated there by 101. So there is an additional round through that program that is due, I believe, in September. So we're anticipating trying that application again. The last thing I wanted to mention is related to the Lake County Sanitation District. So we found out last week that Lake County Sanitation District is not going to allow the Canoctown Gardens Affordable Housing Project to connect to their sewer system until the sanitation district makes a number of upgrades. A report was done. This is something that should have been done a very long time ago. Sort of like our traffic upgrades and our water system upgrades that were done. But it wasn't. And so they are actually prepared to provide occupancy to half of the units in the next 30 days.
Did they provide a will serve letter originally for the project?
They provided a conditional will serve letter that said you need to do a capacity analysis.
That wasn't done?
Which was just completed fairly recently. I just saw it last week.
And was that the district's responsibility to do that?
Well, they put it on the developer, but as you know, it's the sewer district's model, and the sewer district ended up contracting for the work. What the report says is that the existing system is exceeding capacity, and the new this area needs to be upgraded with or without the new project, and the section of pipe that they're looking to upgrade is impacted by 4.4% by the new project, but it's already exceeding their levels. So pretty frustrating. I went to the Board of Supervisors meeting. They had a report on it this week. tried to share the situation that we have, 1,000 families have applied for those 102 units. That half of which should be open within 30 days and the rest of them probably early. That unless we can come up with some sort of solution, won't be able to be occupied until October, November is the recommendation from special districts. And it really is probably putting the entire project in jeopardy because of the financing. Fortunately, I got a lot of blank looks from staff and most. Anyway.
I got a comment that you did an awesome job over there. So public people just thought you did a great job. So.
Well, the response was underwhelming. So anyway, we do have a meeting tomorrow with the developer, special district supervisor Sabatier. So, we'll see if we can make any progress, but extraordinarily frustrating that we're at this point and there's very little, if any, planning from special districts in being able to, and it makes me wonder what other, we've had an extraordinary number of sewer spills all winter this year. There's areas that have been a challenge for maybe at least a decade and no known plans from special districts to improve any of those areas currently. So
it sounds like a similar story.
Anyway, that's my glowing report.
Thank you. Councilmember Purdock.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Slutin.
I have something to report. I had a LAFCO meeting yesterday and John Renault, who has been the LAFCO executive officer for the last, I think he said 25 years, is retiring. And we interviewed one person that he knows, and the position was advertised in some LAFCO news and also at the county levels, supposedly. And one person applied for it. And we're going through the process of looking in to make sure that she can handle the workload and
It's a tough job.
the processes that LAFCO has to go through. So by the next meeting, which is in 2 months, we'll probably announce a new LAFCO executive officer. That's my report.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I attended clerk meeting last week. The report, they'll be setting up a carbonizer. It's a biomass process to make basically charcoal out of wood mass, and they're going to set it up at the Middletown Sewer Facility. They've also already got PG&E would like to bring down 1,000 tons, I think, initially, and perhaps more from their steam wells facilities of trees that have gone down over the winter or are dead and standing. It's going to be a huge project. I think the big thing is finding a buyer for the biochar that's created. Then I went to an RRA meeting. By the way, clerk was Clear Lake Environmental Research Center, and RRA is Risk Reduction Authority. So I don't become Willie on that. Or what I'm accusing of. Anyway, RRA is looking at actually brokering biomass. And I tried to get both clerk and RRA to kind of come together and collaborate. And so far, I've failed to do that. But I think if they could collaborate on projects, we could get a lot done as far as biomass and tree, dead tree removal, especially up in the south of Highway 29. All of those hills are dead ones standing, and they're fire hazards. So it's something that we really need to work forward on. And I listened in. I Zoomed the Board of Supervisors meeting on the Canocti Gardens project, and Alan's City Manager Flora's comments, and he did do a fantastic job, by the way. And as he said, quite frankly, there was a lot of blank stares from, you know, a couple of the supervisors. Supervisor Sabatier was, of course, spoke up, not quite as much as we would have liked, but he did speak up. And Supervisor Simon, I am not sure, he asked some questions of Mr. Harder, which I think basically softened the blow of what Mr. Flora had just said about the problem. Mr. Harder, I'm convinced, is not going to do anything about it unless he is really pushed hard. I think it's going to be up to the Board of Supervisors. Also talking on it was the Canocti Gardens, the developer, I don't remember his name, and also their attorney. And I guarantee you that this Board of Supervisors is going to hear more from them. This is just a travesty, this Canocti Gardens thing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Overton.
I don't really have anything to report. I just want to report that I'm going to be gone until I'm leaving tomorrow morning, if I can get out of here and get my work done. I'll be working all night. So, and I won't be back until the 3rd of April. So I will be out of town, but you can feel free to contact me on my cell phone if you need to.
Thank you.
We're not going.
I may not answer, but you can try.
Take a break, take a break. Nothing to report from me. Future agenda item.
Can I pull a quick Councilmember Kramer?
By all means.
I forgot to mention to the full council that Mayor Claffey, Councilmember Salutin, and myself are going to be traveling to the ICSC conference in Monterey for a couple of days next week to meet with a number of retailers. So.
Thank you. City Manager Flora, I have nothing to report. Future agenda items. I do want to echo Councilmember Kramer's perspective on this Canocti Garden situation. And is it worth bringing this up and talking about more fully and figuring out where the gaps were in this situation and why we're in this situation?
Sure.
Sure. Well, let's yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely have an item to talk about some of this at the next meeting if the council would like.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd be interested in hearing from special districts as well, if that's possible. I'd like to get their perspective.
Happy to invite them.
I think that's a good idea. Have them.
If he shows up.
Well, no, not showing up. Well, tell just as big as story.
Well, I mean, let's make the offer and let's hear from the source. All right, moving on. Announcement of action from closed session. Mr. Jones?
Actually, I did that at the beginning. There was no action.
Easy enough. I just want to double check, you know? And then are we going to go back into closed session? All right, no. Then at this point, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
A nail biter tonight, Kevin.